Here to encourage, empower, and enlighten women, I am your host, Elyssa Kadija, and this is the Girl I Got You podcast, now available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Well, hello again, lovely ladies. We are officially in the year 2025, and I could not be more excited. If you haven't already, please go check out our pilot episode where I introduce myself and give a little bit of insight and foreshadowing into the topics and the intention that I have for this podcast. And again, if you haven't as well, please go check out the last episode that I did on getting over your exes, because we are not doing the ex-boyfriend situationship toxic dating thing in 2025. We're just not doing it. And that previous episode actually inspired me to talk about today's topic, which is anxious attachment. So just to give you a little bit of foreshadowing, I'm going to try to be as structured as possible. You know, my mind just goes all over the place and I have so much to say. So going to try to be structured. I am going to define what anxious attachment is. I'm going to tell you how you can know if you have it. I'm going to give you some of my own experiences as someone who had anxious attachment, but through the healing and actually doing the work, am now someone who is more securely attached in relationships. And then we're going to go over some practical and reasonable things that you can start doing today in order to rid yourself of the curse we know as anxious attachment. So to get right into it, what is anxious attachment, right? Anxious attachment is a type of insecure relationship style, often characterized by anxiety surrounding the relationship, unhealthy actions and beliefs surrounding abandonment, and a deep fear of rejection. Usually, anxious attachment is formed in childhood, and unfortunately, it doesn't go away until you heal. So it definitely affects a lot in your adult life as well, particularly relationships. So we're going to get a little bit deeper into the whole anxious attachment thing and how it forms in childhood. But first, I want to be clear. Attachment in general is just the ability to make emotional bonds with other people, and it starts at birth and continues into early and later on adulthood. And it's simply a way of relating to other people. And this is according to WebMD. So let's talk about that, right? In the previous episode, I touched briefly on what anxious attachment is and how it's formed, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper in the whole forming of it, if you would. So we learn our attachment styles as children, right? As a baby, you are looking to your primary caregiver for cues and signals as to what you should be feeling within your body. So this is, for example, a baby who is crying, and when they see their mom and, they know that she's coming to pick them up, they get a little bit calmer. They nuzzle into their mom's arms. They hug her. They hold her. Their mother is their means of self-soothing. Of course, babies and children, they can use other things to self-soothe as well, such as their bottle, their binky, a favorite blanket, a favorite pillow. But your primary caregiver is usually someone who is there and they help the child to self-soothe. When there is a breakdown in that relationship between the primary caregiver and the child, this is where anxious attachment comes in. Think about it this way. Children are looking to their caregivers for their basic needs and their survival. When that caregiver is not reliable or that caregiver is not present, subconsciously these children are worried and become anxious as to whether or not their needs and their survival will be sustained. So this is the genesis, if you would, of anxious attachment. Now, most children are not thinking of doing trauma work. Most children are not going to therapy. They're simply just going on with life and going with the motions. So now that they have grown into teenagehood and adulthood, where relationships are a bit more complex, there is a lot more depth emotionally to relationships. This is usually the time when people find out that they have anxious attachment, or at least are experiencing it a lot worse now that they are adults. They have more complex feelings, deeper relationships with other people. They have spouses, boyfriends, girlfriends, partners. And I want to be clear that anxious attachment does not stop at just romantic relationships. This can also transfer over into your work relationships, your friendships, your family members. This is simply how you relate to other people. So again, this is where it all starts, and this is how it transfers over into adulthood. And I just want to make this statement as well. Unfortunately, there are a lot of individuals, but specifically women, who are anxiously attached, and they tend to become codependents, right? Codependency is, simply put, an excessive emotional reliance on a partner. So you feel like without them, you cannot live, you cannot go on, you can't be happy, you can't be fulfilled because that person is not there, or that partner is not there. So the same way that you could not rely on your primary caregiver as a child, and you became anxious within yourself because you did not know if you were going to have your needs met and your crazy emotions soothed by their presence, is the same way that now, as an adult woman, you are unsure if your needs are going to be met or if you're going to be able to self-soothe because he's not there. It all ties into one another. So I want to be very clear on that. And of course, you guys can definitely feel free to leave comments and things of that nature. I'm going to leave some contact info in the end of the episode so you guys can reach out through my socials. So now that we have a good definition of what anxious attachment is, how do you know you have it? Let's get into it. So number one, you overanalyze and overthink interactions with people. So let's say you send a text message to a guy that you just went on a date with, maybe yesterday or the day before. He doesn't respond, whether it's within a couple of minutes or within a couple of hours. So now you're overthinking and worried. Oh, well, did I do something last night? Maybe he's not attracted to me. Why does this always happen? You just start playing these unproductive thoughts over and over in your mind. You think maybe he ghosted me or he blocked me, really catastrophizing the situation without knowing the whole context of why they haven't responded. Maybe they are working, maybe they're with family, maybe they're asleep. I'm not saying that guys don't ghost, because they definitely do. And that is nightmare fuel for somebody or a woman who has anxious attachment. But what I am saying is that not all the time is it rejection. Sometimes it is you. It's you and your anxious thoughts, just worried and being consumed by the anxiety. So you overanalyze and overthink these interactions. They can be in-person interactions. They can be interactions over the phone. You're always left thinking and even blaming yourself for what you perceive to be your own rejection. So that's number one. Number two is chaotic emotions during and after the relationship. So whenever you see that your partner or your person is drawing back, or they just aren't giving you as much attention as they were before, women with anxious attachment tend to lean all the way in. And that leaning in is what makes them pull back even more. So let's put it this way. Say you haven't heard from your boyfriend or the guy that you're talking to for a couple of hours. You see that he has withdrawn. He's not really texting and calling or whatever have you. And now, as someone with anxious attachment, you want to lean all the way in. So this might be the spam calling. This might be the spam texting. Hey, what are you doing? Where are you at? Oh, are you busy? And then after you don't get a response to those messages, now your mind is racing and you're getting that anxious feeling. And now you just want to get in contact with them by any means necessary so they can soothe that anxiety. But the thing with that is the more you contact them, the more obsessive you might seem, the more you might turn them off, and the farther back they'll pull away. So it is just a recipe for disaster when you are overreaching as someone who has anxious attachment. So that is number 2. Number 3 is the deep sense of dread at the thought of rejection. When I say a deep sense of dread, I mean a physiological feeling. I always used to feel like I had this dark cloud over my head, especially when I thought that I was being rejected. It just felt like there was a cloud over my head. I got into this really dark mind state. My body was tense. You could feel the anxiety. And if you're someone who has anxious attachment, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So there's that sense of dread when you think you're being rejected, when you aren't getting a text back or a call back. You can actually feel this thing. So, I'm not just saying stuff. It's actually a physiological feeling that you can sense in your own body as well. Moving on to the next point, it is excessive and possessive behaviors. Like stalking, like wanting to go through their phone, like accusing them of cheating. Even if they are cheating, you still might accuse them before you actually know whether or not they are. You should not be stalking his Instagram, his TikTok, his Snapchat. You should not be stalking his social media at all. You shouldn't be trying to reach out to his family members to get in contact with him because he might have cut you off. You should not be sitting outside his job in some dark sunglasses and a hoodie under the tree trying to see if he's there or not. This is a telltale sign that you are anxiously attached. And I'm not blaming you. I'm not guilting you because trust me, I have been there. But when you actually get out of that mindset and those beliefs, you see that overreaching and overextending to somebody who has pulled back is pointless. Me, if ever I'm ghosted, well, to be honest, I don't even get ghosted anymore because as soon as I see a red flag or as soon as a guy does something that's less than favorable for me, I just walk away. I have no problem leaving first. I have no problem blocking first and moving on with my life because I know my worth and I know my boundaries. And what he's not going to do is cross those boundaries and expect me to just sit there and take it. Absolutely not. You have to be zero tolerance, no nonsense, no bullshit when it comes on to men. Because again, if you give them an inch, they will literally take a mile and run you over while you're on it. So no, we're not going to do that. So no more excessive possessive behaviors, none of that stuff. The next is low self-esteem and low self-worth. Who do you think that you are? And why do you think that you are her? See, when we grow up feeling abandoned, when we grow up feeling unloved and we feel as though our needs are not met, and perhaps your needs weren't met, your experience and your childhood traumas are completely valid. But those experiences cause us to form beliefs about ourselves. So I'll give a good example. When I was younger, I always used to get called chubby. it never failed. People would call me names, they would say stuff about my skin that, because I was a darker skinned girl. So it was always comments about my skin and about my weight. Now, at the time, I didn't know it, but those people just hated themselves. And so they needed to project onto me their own hatred. But because I didn't really have a good sense of self and I didn't have the highest self-esteem, I allowed other people's projections to affect how I saw myself. And I ended up internalizing those things. So along the way, I believed that, hey, maybe I am fat, or maybe I'm not the most beautiful because I'm dark skinned. Both of those things are very untrue. However, it was just that belief that it was. So I thought I could never really be loved until I weigh a particular amount, until I look a particular way. Again, all things under that umbrella are false. But when you have anxious attachment, you tend to have a low self-esteem as well. And when you have low self-esteem and anxious attachment, it is a match made in hell, because now not only are you discounting yourself in relationships or friendships or anything of the sort, but you now believe that you deserve it. You see how that works? So the self-esteem makes you believe that you're not worthy of more, when that couldn't be farther from the truth. So low self-esteem and self-worth are telltale signs as well that you have anxious attachment. I don't even know what number I'm on right now, but just trust me, I am on a roll and we are really going to get so deep into this. Serial dating. Serial dating is also an indicator that you have anxious attachment. See, people with anxious attachment oftentimes struggle being by themselves. They have a lot of emotional turmoil that they are uncomfortable with. So instead of sitting with those uncomfortable feelings and emotions, they would rather hop from relationship to relationship, situationship to situationship, party to party, friend to friend, place to place. They never seem to want to be alone. But we're going to go over how you can cope with that and manage that and not be a slave to your emotions. So serial dating is definitely one of those indicators. And I think we're going to get to the last two, and then I just want to hone in on some of my personal experiences. You tend to attract and remain in low quality and unsatisfying relationships. So what do I mean by that? You would rather be in a relationship with somebody who is toxic, manipulative, maybe they're abusive, both physically, verbally, whatever have you, emotionally. You want to be in a relationship with someone so bad that you are willing to put up with being mistreated just for the sake of having someone there. And the problem with that is toxic relationships and situationships. And if you don't know, because I say that word a lot, a situationship is just a casual sex situation. You aren't exclusive, you aren't dating, you aren't married, but you are still in an intimate relationship with this person. So that's what I consider to be a situationship. You attract and you remain in these positions because you don't believe that you are worthy of better. You want to be with someone so bad because those uncomfortable emotions are so out of whack that you need someone there to pacify you, whether it's through sex, whether it's through buying you things, whether it's through giving you shallow attention and affection, and then they withdraw that. And I'm going to do an episode very soon about different manipulation tactics that men use during dating. But you would rather be in that position than to just sit with your uncomfortable feelings. And I get it. I was once there as well. And it's crazy because I didn't know that you could actually feel your feelings and express them in a healthy way until I was about 21 or 22. And for context, I'm 26 now. So I've only been really exploring myself and exploring my emotional self for just a couple of years now. Just a little bit over half. I don't know if you want to say half a decade, but six or so years. So again, the tendency to attract and remain in those low quality relationships and situations definitely is a sign that you have anxious attachment. And the last one on my list is people pleasing tendencies. You want so bad to be loved and accepted, whether it's by friends, partners, or family members, that you find yourself doing things that you don't even want to do just for the sake of being accepted and feeling a part. So this is doing things, whether it's having sex with your boyfriend or the guy that you're dealing with, even when you don't want to, but he wants to, so I'm going to do it anyway. Or it's spending money, crazy amounts of money, on siblings and family members, not because you want to, but you feel like you have to in order to remain accepted and to remain loved. Because deep down, the woman or just the individual in general with anxious attachment, one of your deepest fears is being alone. And it hurts, and I get that. Um, but you can't let the fear of being by yourself let you accept nonsense from people. You can't let yourself be taken advantage of just because you don't want to be alone. That fear of being alone is actually what's stopping you from really connecting with yourself and connecting with your soul tribe and the people who really love you for you. So I want to be clear that what I just listed are just a couple. There are a lot of different signs that you might have anxious attachment. I would say do your own research. There's so many resources and tools out here online. You can go on ChatGPT and ask, what are the signs of having anxious attachment? Pinterest, I'm always going to recommend that. There's so many mental health resources that are on Pinterest. I definitely think that you should check it out. And again, I'm going to leave my socials at the end of the episode so that you can reach out to me and we can have a discussion and maybe a one-on-one perhaps, so we can explore a little bit more about your background, who you are, and whether or not you have anxious attachment. So this is the part when I talk a little bit about my personal experience. I don't want to go into an entire dissertation about my childhood and all that good stuff, but just know that I had anxious attachment as a child, and it followed me into my teenage years and even into my young adulthood. See, as a kid, I was born in America, but I had immigrant parents, and I would oftentimes be sent overseas to go to school. And I didn't know it at the time, but me constantly going back and forth between America and, you know, the place where my parents came from, it really did a number on my ability to feel secure in my relationships, because I would be with my parents and my friends in America at one point, and then the next thing you know, almost suddenly, I'm in a completely different country, learning different people and having different caregivers. And it just was a recipe for disaster when it came on to me forming an attachment style as a kid. So that's the very brief background of my childhood. There's so much more that goes into it. But moving into my teenage years, I did have low self-esteem and I didn't really have a sense of self. I didn't have a sense of self-worth, right? I wanted to be loved and accepted by people, so I did a lot of people-pleasing things. I allowed myself to be picked on and talked about and humiliated by people that I thought were my friends because I wanted so bad to be a part. And when it came time for, boys and little crushes and relationships and things of that nature, I tended to gravitate to the guys who triggered my anxious attachment even more. I will never forget. There was this guy named Sebastian that I had a huge crush on. He was so cute, but he did not like me. I don't think he did. It was, I think, maybe like high school time where I met him, and I was able to get his phone number because he was like the new guy at our school. So I got his phone number, or I think like his kick. If you know, you know. Like I was in high school, like 2012, 2016 time, and Kick was just one of those apps that everybody used, right? Snapchat as well. So I got his socials, got his contact info, but when I would message him, he wouldn't message me back. And I was just so anxious, so worried, even as a 13, 14-year-old, like, why isn't he texting me back? What is he doing? Where is he at? And I didn't know it at the time, but that kind of attachment style would literally make my adult dating life hell until I became aware of what it is and I actually did something to stop it. If I were to give you guys all of my experiences and all of my stories, we would be here for months. Months, I tell you. But I'm going to give a more recent one, right? This is in 2018. So I was dating a guy my sophomore year of college that I met on Tinder. And at first, everything seemed pretty good with him. He was really nice, giving me all of this attention. We would hang out just about every single day, right? And even at that point, I didn't know that it was a red flag for us to be together all the time. But again, I was being soothed by him. So I didn't have to self-soothe. And I remember going to Florida for summer break, and I would try to reach out to him, try to call him, and he pulled back, right? At the time, it really was a situationship. He was only there for what he could get, which was my body. And me being so delusional at the time, I loved this guy literally more than I loved myself. And that's that codependency. I didn't think that I could live without him. I was planning a future with this guy who didn't even see a future with me. And it sucked so bad when he ended up, quote unquote, breaking up with me to go date another girl. I lost it. My whole world turned upside down. My emotions were all over the place. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't self-soothe because the guy that was doing it was now no longer available to me. So I remember just trashing my dorm room, throwing things all over the place and crying and just crashing out. And it took some time. It took a lot of time. It took a lot of me going back to him and then pulling away and going back to him and pulling away. Or if you want to call it getting hoovered in and sucked in, and so many back and forths with him. Even being humiliated by him time and time again after that breakup. It took so long. It took work. It took prayer. It took journaling. It took self-soothing. It took letting go of certain beliefs, therapy, to really get to the place where I am now, where I'm not even interested in him anymore. Honestly, I don't have any plans on returning to him. And again, if you haven't, please go check out that episode that I did previously on getting over your ex, because I think it's definitely insightful, definitely helpful. I have no interest in going back to my ex. Matter of fact, he was supposed to come with me to my birthday dinner this year. So my birthday was on the 7th. So that was maybe like three weeks ago. He was supposed to come, and he, of course, did not show up. When I had texted him, he didn't get the message conveniently, but I wasn't worried about it. I wasn't anxious about it. I was just angry that the lack of communication was there. Again, I don't know what I expected. Exes are exes for a reason. But me going to dinner by myself on my birthday really solidified to me that I am done depending on my quote unquote friends or people that I used to like to actually show up for me. If I want to do something, I'm going to do it by myself for myself. So I'm in this place now where I really do not care to be with him. And it's funny because on Christmas night, going into the 26th, he texted me at 1 a.m. like, hey, how's it going? And I woke up, read the message, locked my phone, and went back to sleep peacefully. I don't care. I'm in this place now where men are such a non-factor to me. I am single by choice and I am happy and I'm satisfied with this decision because, for one, I don't need anyone's lies. I don't need their manipulation. I don't need anyone taking advantage of me. I'm good off of all of it. And a lot of these relationships these days and situations, they're so unfulfilling. They're so unsatisfying. They're so unproductive. The life that I want, I know I'm not going to find it in a man. I'm going to have to pursue that for myself. And when I talk about the life that I want, it's not just about money, but it's about purpose. It's about will. It's about legacy. And focusing all of my time on guys just simply is not going to do that for me. So I say all this to say that as somebody who used to cry constantly, who used to self-blame and have negative self-talk in the face of rejection, I am telling you now that you can get over it. You can move forward. You can heal. I know that when you're in the bowels of trauma, it's easy to think that you can't ever get out. It's easy to think that you can't heal, that you can't get anywhere. But I promise you, this is all a lie. You have to challenge those beliefs. And there's something that Ayan Levant Zant said in an episode of Fix My Life that has stuck with me since I've watched it. And that is, there is healing and there is restoration. I think the woman she was talking to asked her, can you fix me? And she told her, I can't fix you, but there is healing and there is restoration. And so I give that to you today to say, hey, there's healing and restoration for you. It might not seem easy at first, and I will admit it's not, but the end result is so worth it. You have more peace. You have more confidence. Your self-esteem is through the roof. You start setting boundaries and standards. You find your voice again after years, if not a lifetime of feeling like you have no voice, like you have no power, like you are at the mercy of everyone else. So I want you to know that I am so here for you, and no pun intended, but girl, I got you. If nobody else is going to be there for you, I'm going to be there for you because I am so invested in the betterment of women. I've seen what the power of prayer can do. I have seen how therapy impacts your life. I have seen how pretty much doing the hard work has created this beautiful story that I'm currently living in. And I just want every woman, especially the women who have a past and previous experiences that are just like mine, to know that, babe, you can make it here too. So again, I want to connect with you. I want to hear from you. I want to talk to you. So once I drop those socials, please follow, like, subscribe, and inbox me. Let me know, hey, I listen to your podcast. I feel the same way. Here's who I am. And I will respond. I will respond to every single message that I get. So without further ado, I know that I got onto like a little rant there, but we're almost to the end of it. So I'm just going to talk about some ways that you can overcome anxious attachment and give some of my personal experiences with them as well. So number one, I don't know what you believe in and who you believe in, but I believe in God and I believe in Jesus Christ. And I have struggled on my walk with him, but if not for God and his grace and really his care, his investment in my life, I do not know where I would be. I can remember times sitting in my car in random parking lots, just crying my eyes out because life just seemed so confusing and so wayward. And one thing I knew is that I did not want to feel this way anymore. I didn't want to be anxious and worried and constantly in these relationships that led nowhere. And so I would just do little prayers like, God, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I need your help. And it really is true when he says in the Bible that as surely as the sun will rise, I will respond. God is invested. He literally wants the best for you, even when you don't want it for yourself. And in those situations where you feel hopeless, prayer is the perfect avenue to absolve yourself and give it over to him, who is the higher power, right? So prayer is number one. Two, seeking therapy. I cannot stress enough just how helpful therapy actually is. I know that there are people that will swear to you that therapy is pointless. There might be cultural or racial taboos surrounding therapy. Screw that. Therapy is one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, and I highly suggest that you seek therapy as well. See, it's not just sitting on a couch and talking to someone. Therapists are there to give you a professional and non-biased perspective that you might not have thought of. People would say, oh, well, you can go to your family members, but let's be honest. Isn't it your family members who traumatized you in the first place? I don't think that they're the ones that we should be looking to for therapy. You can't go to the people who created your buttons in the first place and expect them not to push them. So seek therapy. I had to go to 4 different therapists before I landed on the 5th, who is my current therapist, Dr. B. She's absolutely amazing, and I would not trade her for anything. I literally love her 2 pieces. So therapy is definitely a fantastic avenue as well. Self-soothing. This is essentially the concept of soothing your own body when your emotions get big. Me, I used to not be able to communicate or identify my feelings, so I would just be so emotionally torn up inside. If I can describe it, I was like a bottle of Coke that you shook up and just opened the cap. And I would have these huge emotional outbursts because I just did not know how to express my feelings and let my emotions out in a healthy way. Now that I learned how to self-soothe, I don't even have big emotions anymore. Yeah, I get upset sometimes, but it's not nearly as disastrous and big as my previous emotional self used to be. So, learning how to self-soothe, I'll just give you some of the things that I did. And again, you can always go to Pinterest or ask your therapist or just research different ways of self-soothing. But I always say surround yourself with soft and plush items. So when you feel yourself getting anxious and you're crying and you're hyperventilating, lay down. Just lay down on your soft bed. Get a really soft blanket with a lot of fur and fuzz on it. Get your pillows, teddy bear, whatever, and you soothe yourself like a baby. You literally have to remother yourself, right? Remothering yourself is one of the things that I had to do in terms of getting over anxious attachment. But here is 2 things or 2 affirmations that I would tell myself when I was in the process of remothering my anxiously attached self. So one is, you are enough for my love. Now, when we get anxious and feel like we aren't enough for someone's love, this affirmation is so helpful because it's almost like you're talking to your childhood self that felt unloved or unseen by your caregiver. So you tell yourself when you start to get anxious that you are enough for my love, because you are. And 2, I forgot where I heard it from, but this one is absolutely fantastic. I am safe, all of my needs are met, and I can take care of myself right now. That affirmation was life-changing for me. And I would definitely recommend doing affirmations as well to start changing and rewiring some of your thought processes and your beliefs. So, surrounding yourself with soft plush blankets, learning to remother yourself and reparent yourself in general, cuddling with a pet. You can have a regular pet or emotional support pet. Pets are good at just being non-biased. They're good at just being there and being a present body that's, of course, soft and cuddly, that's not going to judge, that's not going to look at you crazy for crying. And I definitely think you should take advantage of that as well. Taking hot showers. When you feel like everyone hates you, go take a hot shower. Take a hot shower because, again, it's soothing your body. Like how you would give a baby a warm bath when they're cranky. You are literally a baby. You have to look at yourself that way. So whatever you would do to your baby or your kid when they're anxious is what you do to yourself, right? Give yourself time to just soak up the hot steam in the shower and let the warm water run over your body. Use a nice soap and fragrances and all kinds of scrubs. Just take a moment for self-care when you feel anxious. Another one, taking deep breaths. Deep breaths are life-changing, okay? You sit and you simply breathe. There are so many breathing exercises and activities that you can find on YouTube. Again, I will not stop saying go to Pinterest. There's literally everything for everyone on Pinterest all the time. But definitely YouTube, you go look up some of those breathing exercises, and I think those are really helpful as well. You know, deep breathing helps you to navigate and moderate your body, especially when your feelings and emotions are very heightened and you are lost in them. And that takes me to my next point, is grounding. And when I say grounding, you don't have to go outside barefoot in a boho dress walking across the lawn. Grounding is simply just getting back in touch with your senses. Emotions are non-physical. They might manifest physically, but what you're feeling, you cannot see it. Your emotions will take you so far down the rabbit hole into all kinds of worst case scenarios and beliefs and past experiences. Your mind is literally running 1,000 miles a minute. And what grounding does is takes you right out of that and puts you back into reality. Because how do we experience reality? Through the senses. So what I used to do when I would feel anxious or be worried, I would go outside walking and I would play I Spy with myself. So I would give myself a particular color and I would find that color in my environment. So if the color is red, I would say, oh, well, there's a red car. There's a red door at that person's house. There's another red car. Oh, there's a red fire hydrant, a red trash can. Or if you want to do something, a little bit more specific, I'm going to look for things in my environment that start with the letter M. So that might be a Mazda. That might be a mushroom growing out of the ground. That might be the mittens on my hand. You see what I'm saying? You got to get creative with these things. So grounding, really getting back in touch with your senses. And those examples are more so sight. For hearing, you can listen to music. You can try listening to ASMR or a guided meditation. I'm not really huge on the whole meditation thing, but when I do say meditation, there are different channels on YouTube that will offer you like sleep casts, for example. I love Headspace's sleep casts. I literally put them on and I am knocked out within 5 to 10 minutes. They are so awesome. But try out different avenues. You can go to the beach or go to a nearby lake and just listen to the water pushing and pulling with the wind. You can listen to birds outside. When it comes on to smelling, you can do aromatherapy. You can go to Bath and Body Works or a Home Goods and smell different candles. You can smell different perfumes that you have, or maybe go to a store and smell some of the fragrances that are there as well. You can cook something and definitely be intentional with it and smell the scent of the peppers and the onions and the garlic cooking. Life is amazing. And when you really get grounded and get back into your senses and stop yourself from being carried away emotionally, you will actually start to see the beauty in life. You can touch a warm blanket. You can squeeze a teddy bear. You can hug a family member. You can cuddle with your pet. I mean, there's just so many different things. Tasting. Try a new food. Have a warm cup of chamomile tea. Eat something spicy. And if you really want something ridiculously spicy, I would suggest the bulldog ramen noodles. That's just a side note. They are so good, but so spicy. And I might just have a bowl of that when I finish with this episode. But nonetheless, get grounded and stop getting carried away emotionally, right? Go for a drive. Maybe try journaling. Just get in touch with you and what makes you feel better. You don't have to depend on a guy or anyone to self-soothe. With that being said, ironically, in all of that, I always suggest calling a trusted loved one. Call someone who does not make you feel anxiously attached. Me, I have two cousins. I'll call them Jesse and Hannah because they have always been there for me. They show me that they love me and they show up for me every single time. And when I look at that, they show me and reflect back to me that, hey, I am actually worthy of being loved. And when I think of love, their version of it is what I want love to feel like. It's non-judgmental. It's honoring. It's gentle. It's kind. I love my cousins to pieces. Granted, I love all of my family members, but there are just those specific family members that you have that really special connection with. So you don't have to do it alone. If you want to call a trusted friend or a trusted loved one, they will be there for you. And if they're not able to answer, try out some of those things that I recommended. But guess what? They will call you back. So with that being said, there are just so many different avenues to coping with anxious attachment. You don't have to do it alone. I recommend doing some trauma work, or some people call it shadow work, but because I'm a Christian, I don't really get into the whole shadow realm. When I say trauma work, it's going back into those uncomfortable situations. See, there was a time when I had asked myself, I was feeling anxiously attached, right? And I was crying and feeling upset. And then I asked myself, or my inner self, when was the first time that you felt this emotion? And it brought me back. A memory came to mind. You can literally talk to yourself and yourself will talk to you. And I don't just mean verbally, but you are a database for so much information and memory. And if you pull it or pull on it, that information will come up. So I asked myself, my inner child, I said, when is the first time you felt this emotion? Or when is the first time you felt like this? And it brought me back to a moment in my childhood where I was overseas going to private prep school, right? Of course, my parents were still in the States, but I was there. And I remember my mom had came to have her wedding to her current husband. And that was such a long time ago. I think that was like in 2008. I had to be like 9 or 10 at the time. And when it came time for her to go back to America and I had to stay in Jamaica, that's where that anxious attachment really came in. Of course, I had situations before that made me feel anxiously attached. But that particular day, that's the emotion that I was feeling. And that's the image that was brought up, or the experience. And what had happened was I had started crying days before my mom was set to leave because I knew she was going to leave me again. And it was going to become uncertain. It was going to become scary. I wasn't going to have that mother, that nurturing that I had needed when she was gone. And so I cried so hard. And that right there is just a prime example of how childhood experiences help form anxious attachment styles, if you get what I'm saying. So that trauma work, and I did affirmations to myself. It's okay. I'm here. I love you. You are mine and you are enough. I cannot stress how much the work needs to be done. It is bitter work, but it is work that is needed and will be rewarded with the fruits of your labor. I promise you. So just a last, point or two here. Increasing your self-awareness. Be aware of your behaviors, your beliefs, and your actions. Be aware of what your thoughts are. Start challenging yourself and challenging your beliefs. And one way you look at that or you do that is start finding examples and real life scenarios that challenge your belief. So if one of your core beliefs is that, hey, nobody loves me, try to find instances in your current reality that challenges that and proves that belief wrong. So let's say one of your core beliefs is that I am ugly, right? But yesterday when I went to the store, that lady that was at the counter told me how beautiful I was, and she told me how gorgeous my eyes and my skin was, and all of that good stuff, right? You find real life examples that prove your belief wrong, and that will start to reaffirm a new belief. Hey, I am actually beautiful. So when you start these affirmations, depending on what kind you do, look for real life examples that are going to help rewire your brain and reaffirm to you that this new belief is actually real. Because I get it, we form beliefs based off of our past experiences, but past experiences were not always real. Sometimes those were just bullies that were just projecting. Sometimes that TV show you were watching as a kid that made you believe something about the world or yourself was just that, a fictional show. So you have to challenge these beliefs that were formed in your childhood, because children do not perceive the world the way that adults do. Children's perception is very different. So of course, a child is going to form particular beliefs based off of their perception that might impact you negatively as an adult. So now as a grown-up, you have to go back in and say, you know what? I'm going to find some new things to believe. So last but not least, know your worth. I cannot stress this enough. When I figured out I was the prize, I was not concerned about who wanted to be in my life or who didn't. I didn't care who wanted to go. I didn't care what they were doing because I knew that I was the prize. And I became so secure in myself. And this is not to say that I don't have times when I feel insecure. This is not to say that I don't have times where I don't, like something about myself. What being secure is knowing that, hey, I am a human being. I have flaws just like everyone else, and I am okay with that. I am not going to down myself. I'm not going to degrade and humiliate myself because I have flaws and I feel like I'm less than anybody else. To hell with that ideology. Know your worth. These guys see worth in you. And when you can't see the worth for yourself, you tend to get taken advantage of. And this is why there's so many women who are 10s out of 10s, who have the career, who have the lifestyle, are still being mistreated, taken advantage of, and if you want to call it dogged out by men, because they cannot see the worth in themselves. And I just want to say this. Your worth is something that is divine and it is intangible. Your worth comes from God. It is something that is so intrinsic and natural. It's not something you have to work for. It's not something that you put on or take off. Your worth is intrinsic and you are worthy of love, period. You don't have to be a particular weight, a particular size, a particular shade. You do not have to be anything to be loved. You need to know your worth and add tax, like my awesome therapist, Dr. B, always says. So in conclusion, you are loved. And I know I got so passionate in this episode, but this is really something that's impacted me. And I know so many girls and women are impacted by anxious attachment as well. And I hate that for you because I know the struggle. I know it sucks. But again, girl, I got you. If you need a sister to lean on or someone to help you just get through it, you can follow me on Lemon8 and TikTok. That's at Russian Dolly, RussianDolly. So Russian Dolly on TikTok and Lemonade. And my Instagram is Elle Magazine. That's ELLEMAGAZEEN. I am in the works of putting together a website where you can officially reach out and book a consultation, join the emailing list, or just send emails in general. So just be patient with me while I put this girl tour, world tour together, if you would. But please leave comments, subscribe, inbox me, follow me on socials, because I'm literally here to help you. So with that being said, I always appreciate you amazing ladies for joining and listening to my thought and perspective. And I hope to see you next time here on the Girl, I Got You podcast.